Looking at our world from a theological perspective. This is the Theology Central Podcast, making theology central.
Welcome, everyone. It is Tuesday, November the 23rd, 2021. It is currently 5:17 p.m. Central Time, and I'm coming to you live from the empty sanctuary of Victory Baptist Church, located right here in the middle of nowhere, Texas. Now, if you don't know anything about this church, it is a very small church, not a lot of people, kind of an older, broken down building that used to be, it used to be like a gas station, a convenience store. It was a feed store. I don't know what this used to be. It used to be a lot of different things. I know what some of the things it used to be. And there's like two parts to the building. And yes, we've done a lot of work on the inside to make it look as nice as possible. In fact, I think when you see the outside of the building, you may have one perspective. When you walk in, you see, and you go, whoa, they've done a lot of work on the inside to make it look as nice as possible. And I think we've done a decent job. There are a lot of things that we still need to do to the outside of the building. There are things that we need to do. Of course, that requires money, and you can only do so much with the money that you have. But we've worked hard to do as much as we can. But we are a little church in the middle of nowhere, Texas. And the reason I am stressing that is because even though we are a small church in the middle of nowhere, I've never wanted my people in this church to have a small church mindset, because many small churches, it's kind of like, all right, you show up, you have church, you do your little activities, and you just kind of become comfortable with being small, and you don't attempt to do anything else. I've always said we may be small, but as long as we have technology, we can engage in ministry just like big churches can. We can get teaching out there. We can offer commentary about what's going on in the world from a theological perspective. We can do Bible studies. We can do theological lessons. We can do all kinds of different things. So I'm always trying to come up with different ideas, different, let's use this word, initiatives to continue to try to minister to as many people as possible, try to evangelize, try to disciple, try to equip, try to help people spiritually any way we can. Yes, I understand we do so imperfectly. I understand that I'm an imperfect person who is a sinner, who's made all kinds of mistakes, but I try to do everything I can to do what I can while I still can, because the night is coming when no man can work. Either my death or Christ will return. So we have a limited amount of time. And my thing is, we should not allow being a little church to stop us. Being a little church is no excuse. I've never understood how pastors have so many tools available to them and how many they don't use. It's like they've got money, they've got big buildings, they got a staff, they got people dedicated, and like they could be doing so much, and they're just kind of like, okay, I'm content to preach whenever I can, have a website. We don't really do much with our website. Yeah, we'll post our sermons online, but I'm not going to do anything beyond that. And it's like, where's that initiative? But their initiatives seem to be focused on, I guess, I don't know what their initiatives are focused on, but I've always do what we can, do what we can, do what we can, do what we can. And the definition of the word initiative that I have here in front of me is a readiness to embark on bold new ventures. A readiness to embark on bold new ventures. And I'm always coming up with new things to try. However, I have far more failures than I have successes, okay? I always have like a million ideas that I want to try. Either I don't have the money to pull them off, I don't have the time, I don't have the people. There's always so many things that limit what I want to do. I could do this and I could do that, and then it typically fails. So I have a lot of failures, a lot of things that I haven't completed. But so before we move on to some new initiatives that I'm trying, some new things that I'm going to try to get your help with. Before we can get to those, right? Let's just talk a few minutes about failure. Listen to the following. I'm going to offer some thoughts and comments on what you're about to hear. I heard this the other night. I don't know. midnight, 1 a.m, listening to podcasts, and, well, I heard this.
Before the greatest inventions and breakthroughs take place, there are uncounted unsuccessful ideas. Thomas Edison made thousands of attempts before he invented the light bulb. But what if those first failures had stopped him? An exhibit now touring the country is reinforcing that old adage, if at first you don't succeed, try again. NewsHour Weekend special correspondent Megan Thompson visited the Museum of Failures, first stop in Minneapolis.
The Museum of Failures. The Museum of Failures. I could fill up my own museum of failures, my own personal failures, my own personal mistakes. There's plenty of those that I'm haunted with every single day. So I have those failures, and then I have all the failures of things I've tried in ministry, trying so many things like, okay, church, let's do this. And I get maybe that initial yeah, let's do it. And then the initial excitement goes away about 5 minutes later. And then you realize, okay, wasting time, wasting money, wasting my sanity. Let's forget it and move on. And it is frustrating how many failures I have. Now, some may say that I perceive some of my things that I've tried as failures, okay, while others may not perceive it to be as big as a failure as they may say, you made it a bigger deal than it was. It really wasn't that bad. You made it sound like no one cared. No one was interested. We think you're a little too sensitive. You may be right, but it's always hard as a pastor to gauge, okay, I'm putting this much effort, this much time. This is look, that's not working. We've got to try something else. Sometimes what you should do is be patient and give it time and see if you can develop something. But then sometimes you've just got to realize, I've seen pastors who convince themselves, I've seen people who preach or teach and convince themselves that everyone loved it. And you're like, no, they didn't. So I don't want to be the pastor who's blinded by thinking that everything is better, that everything I do is wonderful, when in reality it isn't. But I think on the other hand, I don't want to be the pastor who's like, everything I do is a failure, everything is garbage, nobody likes it, I'm going to quit everything. So trying to find that realistic understanding of what's going on and trying to move forward. But I have a ministry of failures. Yeah, I have a ministry of failures. I have my own museum of ministerial failures, of podcast failures. I have some of my podcast failures are still available online for you to listen to how bad I messed up. There are plenty, but let's listen a little bit more to this exhibit that's going around the country called the Museum of Failures, because if it comes to your area, you may want to see it, because I think sometimes we need to know how to handle failure and we need to know how to proceed. And I think this is an interesting idea. Let's just listen to a little bit more about this.
What are we looking at?
So probably the most sort of recognizable feature here is
Psychologist Samuel West recently showed off this exhibit he spent years curating.
a new car line with a lot of innovative features.
A brightly colored collection featuring all kinds of commercial products by big-name companies. At first glance, it might look like a celebration of corporate success. Not quite.
It was Ford's biggest failure.
Edsel, designed for elegance.
It was available in so many different price ranges. People didn't understand, is this a luxury car or is it a affordable car? What is it? This is a massive failure for Ford. In today's value, it's in the billions.
This is the Museum of Failure, a collection of more than 150 products that bombed. But this isn't about laughing at corporate flops.
I want people to realize and understand, truly understand, that if they don't take meaningful risks, there will be no progress.
It started when West was earning his PhD in psychology, studying corporate behavior. He started noticing companies' reluctance to invest in the kind of experimentation that leads to innovation.
You explore new methods, new products, technology, etc., you're more likely than not to fail. In fact, 90% of those projects fail. And
I think that's an interesting way of looking at it. Look, if you don't take risk, there's no progress. You've got to risk. You got to be willing to fail, not only to be inventive, to move forward, to progress. You've got to be ready to fail. And as a pastor, as a church, as a podcaster, sometimes you got to be willing to try different things. You've got to try them. Now, yes, it's embarrassing when you fail. It's embarrassing when you don't accomplish it. It's embarrassing when I do a podcast episode that to me is an absolute failure, but it's there on the internet. Now, I do that sometimes for my own spiritual good. It's not for my own emotional good, but it's for my own spiritual good because it humbles me. You know, failure humbles you. There's a good thing about failure is it humbles you, but failure is also the way we move forward. We cannot be afraid. Sometimes some people get locked into a perfectionism. I want everything to be perfect. I want everything to be perfect. And that is very much built into me. The reason I have to do live broadcast and I cannot record, I've told the story a million times. I think people think I'm exaggerating or that I'm using hyperbole because it makes me sound absolutely crazy. But sometimes you've got to be willing to confess your issues because there may be someone out there who can relate. So let me explain. If I record this podcast, I literally, and you think I'm joking, I would say, welcome, everyone. It is Tuesday. I don't like the way I said that. Okay. Welcome, everyone. It is, I don't like that. I don't like how I said welcome. And I literally will just stop and delete, start over, start, stop, delete, start over, stop, delete, and literally go on and on 30 minutes, 40 minutes until I'm literally like, and this is no lie. I will literally get so frustrated that I will literally start smacking myself in the face. You think I'm crazy. I know it sounds crazy because it's like, no, it's got to be perfect. It's got to be perfect, which ultimately, in most cases, whatever was ultimately produced was probably far worse than it would have been if I would have just turned on the microphone and talked. So that got really, really bad. It scarred my family. It did irreversible damage to relationships, and it was just bad. It was bad, and I can never go back to those days. That's why I'm so grateful that I can do live broadcasts because there's no way to change it. But that fear, in other words, I could have recorded 1,000 episodes instead of 500 episodes, but it took forever to get one thing done. So I didn't really, because I was so worried about perfectionism, I could not move forward. And it hurt. It stopped progress. It stopped ministry. So the fear of failure is a very negative thing, but failure shouldn't be something that we're embarrassed by. We should utilize it. We should use failure. I talked about having a theology of failure. We have to, and another series that we've worked on, but we need to redeem failure in this sense. Failure should move us forward, should humble us. It should do good. It should be used for good. It should work for our good, spiritually speaking. But I have plenty of failures, plenty. And sometimes it can make you hesitant. So, you know what? I don't want to try anything else. You know what? I'm just going to stay right here. I'm just going to be content. But we have to move forward. Let's listen to a little bit more about this museum of failure and this concept of failure.
It became more and more apparent that the real obstacle to innovation is that people are afraid of failing. I was thinking, what can I do to communicate that we need to start accepting failure rather than stigmatizing failure?
Wes started collecting examples of products that had failed and ended up opening a museum in Sweden in 2017. The Museum of Failure is now on a tour of the United States, kicking off just outside Minneapolis. The exhibit starts with failures in transportation.
We call it failure in motion.
Besides the Edsel, there's a Swedish warship from 1628 that was so unstable it sank just minutes after it first set sail. And a plastic bicycle designed by Volvo engineers that wobbled and even cracked when people rode it.
Here in the digital disaster area, we have...
The digital disasters include Apple's hockey puck mouse that was hard to use and a video chatting device made by Facebook. It wasn't a hit.
We have the Google Glass, 2013. Put it on. Looking good.
Okay. This feels a little awkward, I'm not going to lie.
It seemed revolutionary, a wearable computer that projects images and takes pictures and video.
The main reason it failed was because of privacy issues.
Glass users could record others without them knowing.
We still deal with privacy issues today, but then, this was like a shock. Google is fantastic at testing new things. And they're not afraid of failing. It's pretty cool.
And we see how successful they are.
Absolutely.
Speaking as a psychologist, where does this fear of failure come from within us?
A lot of it comes from our early experiences of failure. I mean, you spill your glass of juice on the breakfast table. You don't get praised for that. There's also this fundamental part of failure, which is the social shame. There's some functionality to that. We don't want a society where everybody's failing all the time. The problem is when it comes to progress, when it comes to learning, innovation, those rules don't really apply.
How can humans learn to be less afraid of failure?
The best way to overcome it is to get used to it.
For West, the collection is about sending a serious message.
Now, because this is the Theology Central podcast, I have to throw in that I think our fear for failure stems from our depraved nature, and the very essence of our depraved nature is self-exaltation. The very essence of depravity is to promote, we want to be the preeminence. We want to be the strongest. We want to be the biggest. We want to be the best. There is just a pride, and failure makes us it makes us come face to face with the fact that we're not all of these things that we want to be and how we want to be perceived. We want to be perceived as being all of these things, but that's not the reality. Now, I'm not saying everyone struggles with that, but everyone struggles with pride in some way, shape, or form because it's the very essence of our depraved nature. But I believe the fear of failure is clearly connected with pride. I think sometimes when Christians commit a big scandalous sin, one of the reasons many of them will just leave Christianity, abandon Christianity, is because of how people will perceive them. But we should be more concerned not with how people perceive us, but by being faithful to God and trying to follow God, even if we have to do it after a huge failure. Pride says just leave it. Just forget Christianity, walk away from it, and move on, and then you don't ever have to worry about it again. You can say, well, I don't believe any of that's true anyway, so you can say whatever you want about me because I don't care. But when you stay within Christianity, you have to always be the person who committed that big sin, and all the Christians know that you committed that big sin, and you got to live with it, and then that goes against your pride. Sometimes we're more worried about what people think about us than we actually do about sinning against God or our faithfulness to Christ. And it's a struggle. Pride makes us scared to fail because it makes us look bad, and we're worried about how we look and how people perceive us. All right, let's continue.
Message, but he admits some of it is pretty funny, like some of the food flops, bottled water for pets, a curious Colgate-branded beef lasagna frozen dinner, baby food maker Gerber's food for adults meant to be eaten out of the jar, and the famous zero-calorie fat substitute Olestra.
You could eat as much junk food as you wanted to without getting fat, right? Problem was it caused diarrhea.
And then, in the category of what were they thinking,
This is the Euro Club.
there's a golf club that doubles as, well, just watch the commercial.
It looks like an ordinary golf club, but contains a reservoir built into the grip to relieve yourself. The Euro Club comes with a towel and appears that you are just checking out your club. Leak-proof, easy to clean.
Doesn't draw any attention to you at all. It isn't awkward at all.
No. And you're carrying this around with you then for the rest
Yes.
of the game.
When I heard that, I had to laugh. I'm like, wait, what? What, you can relieve yourself in like your golf bag and then you carry it? What in the world is that? Okay, but see, we laugh at it, but someone was trying something new and trying to be inventive. But for every step forward, you've got to be prepared for lots of failure.
Commercials and they don't really specify what you do with it later. And so it was a serious product developed by a urologist who played golf. And then it became sort of sold more as a gag gift.
The exhibit ends with a wall where people can confess to their own failures. 11-year-old Zachary Tao wrote, "My grades," because he just got an F in art class.
Got the lowest grade of my whole entire everything.
Do you think you learned from that?
Yeah. Probably just try to turn in assignments more faster and more quicker.
His twin brother Logan couldn't think of anything, but says he appreciates failure nonetheless.
Well, I think failure is good because then you can always just work on that and improve it.
And that, says creator Samuel West, is the whole point.
When individuals come here and they see these brands fail, they feel liberated. Like if the big boys can fail, so can I. And I think I love that.
Well, sometimes as a podcaster, I don't think the big boys fail. I see all of the successful podcasts doing all of their successful initiatives, and I'm like, wow, if I could be there. But then I stop and go, wait a minute. Do I want success, or do I want to be effective and trying to help people spiritually? What do I want? There's a lot of issues that come into play when talking about these. But I'll just give you some of my failures, and they're still there for you to see. The VBC Bible Institute. Oh, that was going to be a great idea. I was going to have do a Bible Institute as a podcast. I made some initial headway, and then the pandemic messed everything up, and everything just slowly but surely kind of began to fall apart. And then I fell further and further behind. And well, now do I delete everything and start over? I don't know. I don't even know what to do with that. The non-Catholic podcast, where we're going to focus on Catholicism. I was making some good progress there, getting a lot of email responses, and then just realized, wow, there's only so many podcasts I can do. There's like, how do I manage everything? How do I work everything? And then this was a success, but sometimes it feels like a failure. I had the Currently On podcast where I was dealing with music, movies, whatever. I hadn't quite figured out its identity, but I got that podcast all the way up to the #1 trending podcast in the United States of America. We were beating things like NPR, BBC, NBC News, ABC News. We were beating these major name podcasts. And people didn't believe me when I would tell them, and they would look at the charts and like, wait, what? How did you do that? And then Michelle Obama came along and knocked me to #2. But then slowly but surely we started slipping off the charts. And then because I stopped, what do I do? I'm going to have to dedicate all of my time to that. Now, I had success and possibly could have even maybe fixed it, made it even better, made it a little bit more professional, get a good, professional intro, spend a little bit of money. I possibly could have gotten myself. In fact, we had one sponsor. Anchor was our sponsor at the beginning of that. I don't remember how much money I made off their sponsorship. Possibly could have even worked to get other sponsors. And I possibly could have been financially, because I wanted to do it to make a little money on the side. And then I'm like, well, if I do that, I'm going to destroy the Theology Central podcast will suffer. So I had to give up that making a little money to, focus on the Theology Central. So in some ways I feel like it was a failure because I made it to a certain level, and then it all ultimately fell apart because I had to decide what I was going to do. So I approved what I wanted to prove, but that was it. But it still felt like failure. So I guess the practical lesson in what we're getting ready to talk about is that I've got plenty of failures, plenty of them. And I'm going to try a couple of new initiatives. And I'm going to try to explain why we're going to try these things. And I'm obviously going to need your help. The one initiative that's still going very well, I haven't put a lot of effort into trying to build it, is our Theology Central group on the Swell app. All right, it's very simple. You go to your app store of choice, download Swell, SWELL. Right? Once you're there, you look for Theology Central. You follow Theology Central. I will then follow you back and send you a link saying, hey, you're invited to now join the Theology Central group. This will put you in a group that's private. It's not on it's on the app, but it's not available to everyone on the app. And then there, I can record little 3-minute, 4-minute questions, ideas, and then you can respond with an audible response. That's 5 minutes, but it's not going to be broadcasted all over the app. So it's private where I can, oh, hey, I just read this, or what about this, or hey, I just heard this. And it's just a fun way to add to what we already do here in the Theology Central podcast. So we've already started that initiative. We have a very, 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 very small group. But if you want to be a part of it, download the Swell app. That's SWELL, Swell. Download the app, sign up, and then look for Theology Central. Follow me. I will get the notification. In fact, I got a notification a little while ago, so I need to send an invite to that person. Or maybe they already joined the group. I don't know. I have to look. I saw some notification. And that's just something fun. It's not time consuming because the audio clips there that I can record have a 5-minute time limit. So that keeps it from turning into another podcast. And it's just supposed to be done when I can't really be here behind this microphone, but there's something going on, I can immediately bring it up. I haven't figured out exactly how I'm going to use it, but hopefully it can be beneficial. And it just allows quick communication without reinventing the wheel. It's very simple, very straightforward, very easy, and very simple. So that's one initiative that we're working on. But there are two other initiatives that I really need your help. But one I think is big. The other one I don't think is going to happen, all right? One is, in fact, let me pull up the app really quick because I don't want to give the wrong name here. Because, the other one is called Sermon.net. Sermon.net. Sermon.net is a sermon hosting site that has lots of ministries. Now, these ministries typically are smaller, more unknown, and Sermon.net does not have a statement of faith that you have to sign. So like, say, Sermon Audio, a statement of faith you have to sign. You have to go along with that. Sermon.net is open to all kinds. So there is some crazy theology on Sermon.net, crazy stuff. And so I feel that if I'm doing everything I can to try to produce a theology program that is focused on doctrine, theology, church history, and trying to offer it from a historical, biblical perspective that I don't think obviously is apostate or heretical, then I want to offer that perspective on a website called sermon.net so that people out there who are looking for sermons on sermon.net, listening to crazy stuff, may stumble upon something we say and go, whoa, don't know if I agree with this. This is a completely different perspective. And then maybe God will use that, hopefully, to disciple them and keep them from being tossed to and fro with every wind of doctrine and maybe move them from heresy to truth. So we are trying our best to work with sermon.net to make this happen. The only problem is their app right now is completely defective. If you download sermon.net in your app store, sermon.net, and you open up the app, you're going to see something that says like Ricky Allen Memorial Service, Wilson Little Funeral Home. What in the world is that? And it doesn't show you like all the new sermons that are being added. Now, if you do a search, you can find stuff. If you go to live, you will see the people currently live. Right now, live on the air is Union Tabernacle Church, Maranatha, and First Baptist Orlando, Celebrate Recovery. They're all live on the air right now. Now, we want to do some live broadcasting on sermon.net. And we want to add our content even if we're not doing live. Because the way it's supposed to work, if someone opens up their app, they'll see, oh, Theology Central. I don't know what that is. They just added a new broadcast. Even if we're not live, they will see the new content. But right now, the app doesn't show the new content because it's defective. They know it's defective. They keep telling me they're going to fix it. It's now been, I think, more than 2 weeks. They've given us a free month, and they've discounted our subscription with them because right now I'm not uploading anything. But that's sermon.net. If you want to download the app and follow Theology Central on there, then once we get it all set up, then we're going to do some live broadcasting on sermon.net, and then you'll get a notification that we're live on the air, and then we'll see if we can do something with sermon.net and try to build an audience there. Now, at this point, I don't know if it's ever going to happen. If they don't get it fixed within like a week, I'm just going to cancel and say, forget it. Because if their app doesn't even work correctly, then, we're just putting content on there that's never going to be found by anybody. And that's the last thing we want. So that's one of the things we're working on. We're definitely working on sermon.net. I'm literally talking to the people with them. I talked to them or emailed them today, and they were like, well, we're working on it. And I'm like, well, okay. In the meantime, I can't use your site that I'm paying for. All right. So it's a waste of money. So can you please get it fixed? But in the meantime, and I challenge you, go ahead and download sermon.net. I really challenge you. Just keep going to the live section and just watching the live broadcast. See the doctrine theology. There's some decent stuff on there. There's some other stuff you're like, what in the world is this? There's some strange stuff on there. Let me tell you, there's some stuff that I'm like, what is going on here? But you know what? It shows you what's going on in the broader Christian world. So it's good to keep up with, and it's easy. Well, now the problem is when something goes live, you don't get a notification. Like you think you would get a notification anytime someone goes live. In fact, I'm going to email them about that tomorrow. I just noticed that there's all these people live and I didn't get any notification. So why wouldn't you get? Okay. So, here's how it works. If you follow a ministry, if they go live, you get a notification. I'm going to ask them to make it an option that if anyone goes live, you get a notification. Because then, the thing is, if I can follow anytime anyone goes live, then I can discover new ministries that I may want to follow. But sermon.net, please download it. Now so let me just back up a little bit here. The key with all of these initiatives, none of them are successful without you. I know that puts a pressure on you, but that's okay. If you don't want to participate, then it's just going to be another failed initiative. That's okay. I have plenty. Remember, I have my whole museum of failure. I can add this one to it. But download sermon.net. Let me know what you think about the app. Let me know what you see, what you think we can do, because some of you may have better ideas than I have, right? Look, I never would have thought YouTube I thought YouTube would have been a waste of time. And now we are getting a lot of contact from people on YouTube. People are discovering us on YouTube. And slowly but surely, that's proving to be that I was wrong, that I thought it was going to be a failure and a waste of time. And it's turned out to be, I won't call it a success, but it's moving towards that success category. I never would have thought putting my podcast on Pandora would have been successful. And that's one of the most successful things I've ever done. Pandora now is number 1 and number 2 as the number 1 place people listen to Theology Central on. Who would have ever guessed that? I never would have guessed that. So sometimes I think something's going to be a failure, turns out to be a success. I don't know if sermon.net, I don't know what to do with it. I don't know how to utilize it, what to do, because I also have limited amount of time. I wanted to be doing live broadcast on Theology Central. Now, the great thing is, if I do a live broadcast on sermon.net, when it's over, I can download it and upload it to Spreaker. And in other words, we can still get that content to you, even if you can't listen to us live. But it's another thing that I'm going to go live on sermon.net. And then if you have that app, you'll go, oh, I get a notification. He's live on sermon.net. You'll just have to look for the notifications and go, oh, which app do I open? So I think it's possible. I mean, having one more app on your device shouldn't cause you too many problems. But that's sermon.net. I don't know if we're going to go ahead and check it out and give me your feedback. newsif@yahoo.com. newsif@yahoo.com. I am going to email them again tomorrow and say, hey, I know they're getting irritated with me. I know they are, but I mean, come on. Like their app has been around for a long time. Like their app is completely broken right now. So I don't know what it's going to take for them to get it fixed, but I just know this, I'm paying them money and I've uploaded a couple of things, but yeah. And I still got to get used to how to do the live broadcast on sermon.net because their studio is not near as nice as Spreaker. Spreaker is the best setup for live broadcast there is, but that's sermon.net. Now, so we have the Swell initiative, the theology group on Swell. We have the sermon.net initiative, and then the third initiative. And in fact, we're going to be working on this initiative in just a few minutes. If you can, while I am speaking right now, go to your app store and download Podbean. That's Podbean. Podbean. It's a podcast app. You should be able to find all of the podcasts you listen to on that app as well. We used to really focus on Podbean for a very brief time, and then we moved away from Podbean. But Podbean now has the ability, they've had it for a while, to do live broadcasting on Podbean. Now, the setup is not as nice as I was going to say Sermon Audio, as Spreaker. Spreaker has the best by hands down. There's nothing can come close. The ease and the fact that I can include audio, just all the things. Spreaker it beats everybody. Nobody comes even close. It's amazing. I wish everyone else would get their stuff together like Spreaker has it. But also we're paying an outrageous amount of money to be on Spreaker, $100 and now $20 a month. They're still trying to work out how we can possibly get a discount, but that won't happen until next month sometime. So, but what we're going to do is we're going to try to do some live broadcasting on Spreaker. Now on Podbean. I'm sorry, I'm getting notifications on every device right now. I don't know what's going on, but okay, got to put my phone down, my iPad, everything is like boom, 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 boom. I'm like, what is going on? Okay, so here's why we're going to do this. It's the same reason we're trying to do something on sermon.net. One of our listeners is a Podbean user, and I started seeing that some of our numbers on Podbean was going up, right? They're still like, they're in the bottom, they're like number 30 of where people listen to us, where they're on the bottom of the bottom of the bottom. So we don't have a big audience on Podbean, but one day I saw that the numbers had kind of gone up, and I was like, let me download the app and see what's going on. And I noticed, in fact, let me grab my phone. I won't grab my phone. I'll grab my iPad. Let's do this. I think it'll work a little bit better. Grab my iPad. I'm going to open up the Podbean app. All right, I'm opening up Podbean. When I open up Podbean, one of the things I see top 100, categories, and live. If I tap on live, there are all these people who are currently broadcasting live, and they have a section dedicated to religion. If I tap on religion, there are all of these people that are currently live on Podbean. All of these people. And like one is called here, Prayer Invasion. Let me just click on it.
Get this skill before he hands over that thing that you want to you. Don't delay your own deliverance. Beg you. And come and cry with me. I will be my input. I don't have time.
Now, I don't know exactly what that is, okay? Now, one of the things we found interesting is a lot of these are coming, it sounds like from a different country, different accent, different language, but almost everything on here is, just covered in charismatic theology. I listened to one where some guy was just going crazy speaking in tongues. It was like, just going on and on and on. And I'm like, what in the world? Yelling and screaming. See, what is this? Let's see what this is. I don't even know what that is. That's someone just speaking in tongues. And then people putting all these fire emojis, like fire. This is awesome. And just going, like someone's clapping in the background and just going to, I don't want to mock speaking in tongues, but whatever that was, that's what's going on Podbean right now. Right? All of that. And some of these people are like listed in the top 20 broadcasters. And I'm like, what in the world? Their sound quality is like broken beyond all comprehension. I don't even know what it is. And I'm thinking, okay, it's one thing to go, like a lot of very more theologically sound churches in many cases will run to platforms, say like Sermon Audio. And there's nothing wrong with that being on Sermon Audio. Okay. Be everywhere you can be. But you're in a sense preaching to the choir, right? I'm all for no, we got to go. We got to go. We got to go. We got to go. We got to go to where the people are. Well, that's going on Podbean right now. What is that? Like, it's crazy. Just go listen. Download Podbean. Go to the live section. You'll be like, what in the world is this? I think I asked someone to check this out in the theology group on Swell, and she went and checked it out, and her response was, what in the world did I just hear? And that's like every time I go there, I'm like, what in the world did I hear? It doesn't sound like there's no one on there doing anything that even remotely sounds like biblical theological truth. It's just insanity. Well, you could sit there and just say, well, I'm going to wash my hands of that. No, I want to be right in the middle of it. I want to be right. I want to be like, no. That while that's going on, Theology Central's live on the air, and we're going to talk about doctrine. We're going to talk about theology. We're going to talk about scripture. That's what we're going to do. We're going to talk about it. So now again, I'm limited. I'm one person. If I had a team of people, man, do I wish I had a team of people who are just like who can turn on a microphone and teach the Bible, preach and disciple, doing Bible studies. Man, I wish I had a team of people, because if I did, I'd be like, look, here's the church key. It's open. You tell me what hours you're going to be there, and I'll be there after you. And we'll wear that microphone out. We'll wear that computer out. But obviously, I don't have a team of people. But that's what we need to do. We got to get on there, and we got to find a way. And I got to be very careful with this. I got to be very careful. I want us to be able to move up so that we're one of the top 10 or top 20 broadcasters so that we get noticed. But I got to make sure that I'm not doing it for my own personal benefit, my own personal gain, but to do so that if someone's on Podbean tonight and they got their app and they're on what's going on in the religion world, that's what they're going to hear. The average person listening to that is like, that's Christianity. I don't want anything to do with it. I want to be on there to go, no. Stop. Christianity is biblical focused, thoughtful, intelligent, logical. We can talk about things without sounding like we're insane. Like there's got to be a place. And most of the big ministries, they're not on Podbean. They're not even focused on that. They're not. They've got their own little platform doing their own little thing. But I don't want to preach to the choir. Like I want to be on sermon.net so that people who are they can hear a different thing. Now, again, I can't do these things without, and I don't even know if no, make it very clear. There's a good chance that these initiatives are going to end up in the Museum of Failure. There's a high probability that they're going to end up in the Museum of Failure, a high probability. But here's what we're going to do. I'm getting ready to, and when this is over, I'm going to go to Podbean. First, I'm going to do a test just to see how it sounds. If you can go to Podbean, I would love for you to go there and you can tell me, man, it sounds like garbage. What is wrong with your microphone? What is wrong with your setup? Or going, whoa, it sounds really, really good. All right, this is working. Then I want you to be able to follow me, right? Then I want you to, then I'm going to end that broadcast. Then I'm going to go back onto Podbean, do a separate episode and see if you get a notification when I go live. Because if the notification, I think the Spreaker notification system is spotty at best, which is one of the things that bothers me for the money we're paying. They don't seem too interested in making their notification system better. But if we can ensure that Podbean has a great notification system and sermon.net has a great notification system, then no matter where I go live, there's a high probability you can be notified when I'm live, and then that could be very useful. So that's what we're going to try to do. So I didn't want to just make this, hey, I want to try these new things. I wanted to add a little spiritual devotional thought about failure there. But we're going to try these. The Swell initiative, I mean, to me, it's not the biggest thing in the world. If that fails, it doesn't require a lot of time and effort. These others require much more time and effort, and it's up to me to figure out how to best use them. Same thing with Podbean. It appears that once I'm done with a live broadcast, I can download the audio and then just simply upload it to Spreaker as an episode, and there we have it. So in other words, wherever I do I can download this from Spreaker and upload it to wherever. I can upload it to sermon.net. So the key is, as long as I can get the audio and upload it somewhere else, it's still a lot of work. But I can use whichever platform and make the most out of it. So I don't know. I don't even know what the audience will be on Podbean. There's a good chance someone will not even tune in. But I'm going to go to Podbean, do a test. If you can be there, great. I don't even know if anyone's even listening to me live this evening. It is Thanksgiving week, so it's really a bad time to come up with a new initiative. But I'm going to try it, and we will see. So that's what I'm going to do. Those are the initiatives we're working on. Some of them are already in progress, like the Swell one. It's already going. Sermon.net, it's in pause right now because they're broken. And, hey, there's Heather. So, all right, Heather is here. So we're going to go to Podbean, and we're going to see if it's going to work. It could be a broken, I don't even know. Their setup is so weird right now. Yeah, because our podcast is on Podbean, but our account is really because our podcast is on Podbean because it's sent there by Spreaker. But when you set up account, I'm setting up an account, a different Theology Central than the podcast. So if you're following the podcast, I don't even know if you're going to know I'm live on the air. We're getting ready to try everything out. So we're getting ready to find out. So if you're listening, download Podbean. And even if you don't listen to me, just go to the live section and just look at what's going on this evening. It is some crazy stuff on Podbean right now. Crazy. And almost all of these people are like in the top 20, top 10, top 10, top 20. And I'm like, what in the world? And I don't even know what they're doing. What are they offering that would get people to listen? And some of the, like right now, if these are the numbers of people that are listening, listen to these numbers. 24,000, 19,000, 104,000 people are listening to some of these live broadcasts now. Those numbers are insane. So what's going on Podbean? I don't know what's going on Podbean, but clearly there's a part of the world that's using the app to put forth their version of Christianity. And I just think it's time for a different version of Christianity. I will call it a more accurate version of Christianity to be put forth. But this is what bothers me about so many churches, that they've got the money. They've got the things to do that they could do far more than I could. So, okay, yes, Heather, here's what we're going to do. I'm just going to go live. You're just going to have to be looking under the live tab and see what shows up. Whatever shows up, hit the follow button. And then when I stop that one and go back, we'll see if you get notified. There's like more questions than there are answers right now. So we're getting ready to figure it all out together. So that's where we're going. We're going to Podbean. Download the Podbean app. Even if you listen to this later, download the Podbean app, and we're going to figure out what you have to follow. I don't even know. And I think one of the things we're going to have to do is I'm going to have to sign up for their $10 a month account. So right now I got to figure out money. And another thing I got to figure out is, well, we won't go into everything that happened, but let's just say the church debit card that I use for all of our accounts, that debit card went bye-bye. And we are waiting for a new one to arrive, which is putting me in a very, 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 very dangerous position, because I'm getting all of these emails from all of our different accounts saying, hey, we need a new card or your stuff is going to go away. So pray that the card comes in, like, I don't know, now, like today, tomorrow, so that I can get all of this set up. But I'm waiting for that so that I can sign up. I may just have to use my own debit card and get a $10 account. And then we'll see. Podbean, that's $10 accounts, relatively cheap. So that's something we could add without hurting us financially. Sermon.net is a little bit more expensive, but they're working with us right now. So I think we could possibly do these without hurting us financially. And we will see. But that's where we're headed. Podbean, Podbean. It's on all of Google, Apple. Download it. Be in the live tab and be waiting, and we'll be there shortly. But hopefully this has been an interesting discussion about the Museum of Failure, learning from that failure, and moving forward. I was going to quote from Philippians 3, but I want to get this done because I didn't realize it's already 6 o'clock. So, all right. I could be here 18 hours a day and never do all the things. I didn't even get to the things we needed to get to. We needed to get back to Genesis and or Psalm 100, I should say, because I got a great email about Psalm 100, but maybe we'll have to do that tomorrow. But right now, Podbean, we're going to do 2 tests. I won't take too much of your time. We're going to figure out if you find me, then we're going to end it. We'll do another one to see if you get a notification that I'm live. All right? That's where we're headed. And then maybe tomorrow we'll do an actual teaching on Podbean and see if we can get people to come in and, probably get a lot of people saying, you are garbage. You can do live chat on there, and it'll be interesting how many positive things I get told versus negative. I don't think I'm going to get the fire emojis. I think I'm going to get a gun emojis telling me to be quiet. That's usually how my response is from Christians. But okay. All right. Headed to Podbean. Here we go. God bless.